Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaron. So I will be the MC for today a webinar, and also I will be sharing on the presentation topics. So let me just go through the agenda for today. So first session that Dr. Istianah, I think we are quite privileged to have Dr. Istianah to deliver the first session about strategic business value of digital enterprise architecture. I believe that most of us already hear about MyGov EA, which is the journey on the total transformation of Malaysian government in terms of adopting the right technology to drive business value, to increase a citizen value within the country, as well as enhance the business practices among the government with various entities, with the businesses, with the citizen enhancement, so that we all have a better life in our journey towards advanced developed nation. Then after that, I'll be sharing a little bit on the concept on the citizen journey mapping. Then after that, will be followed by the real case study that will be presented by Encik Hassan Ghani. Then at the end, we will do a Q&A session to address any question that you might have in regards to the topics that has been shared. So without further ado, we would like to welcome Dr. Istianah. I think it's not first time you hear about her name and also her profile, and also her passion in terms of sharing about what is so-called the strategic business value of the enterprise architecture adoption among the public sectors in Malaysia. So with that, I hand over the session to Dr. Istianah.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Very good afternoon. Some of the participant is part of EA team as well. So I welcome to all the participants in this webinar. My topic today will be on the strategic business value, but I will be presenting on the directions of the digital government, what we need to do and how we're going to do it in the next 5 years. So I share my screen. Okay, I will be covering on how we go about the digital transformation for the public sector, the business value of the government, and how we are leveraging the digital EA to achieve the digital transformations. Just a recap, in the context of Malaysian government, the digital government has been defined as government designed and operated to take advantage of digital data. So the keyword here is digital data. So in the next 5 years, we are going to see the difference on how data can give to the service delivery, and also how it will enhance the digital economy, as mentioned in shared prosperity visions and also RMK 12 development plan. Yeah. So it's actually part of what we have done before in RMK 11, but in this 5 years plan, what we do is actually we try to facilitate in terms of how to boost up the digital economy. So the digital government is focused more on the intelligence of the data and how we give the services seamlessly to the citizen, business community, and also other government's agency. So how do we go about digital transformations? These are what OECD mentions about digital transformations. Yeah, there are 3 stages that we have to go through before we can call as transform organizations or country. Yeah. So the first phase is digitization. As of we know before this, what we call it as ICT or automations. So information-based services we have done to make sure that the services given internally and externally to be more effective and efficient. So we are talking about speed, we are talking about robust, we are talking about digital data or electronic services. Yeah. So we have multiple channels now, and we automate all our processes, and we build the resilient infrastructure. But for the next 5 years, we are moving towards digitalization in Malaysian context. We are not yet mature enough to be called as a digital society. Yeah? So we call it digital government. Yeah, digitalization to meet the digital government. So it focuses more on the target groups, organizations, and also industry. So when we are talking about digitalization, we're talking about digitalization of manufacturing industry, health, educations, and so on. Yeah. So what we need to do here is the change of how we actually design the services to meet the target audience. Yeah. The business processes and the emerging technologies that we have to focus on. So the next phase that we have to achieve is actually, we call it digital society, whereby when we talk about digital society, as of now, we are still in early emergence of, for example, like cashless society. Yeah? We are embarking on the e-wallet. We are embarking on the mobile apps. We are embarking on the gig economy platform, which is more like e-commerce, right? So that is actually towards achieving the digital society. So in the Malaysian context, digital government goals, we can say we have 4 goals that we have to meet. The first one is to modernize the digital public services to be more integrated, and we are focusing on the live event of citizen, business community, and we try to come up with end-to-end services as much as we can. And if it's not end-to-end, it must be available online. So that is the first target, yeah? First goal. The second one is on innovative offering, meaning to say that when we digitalize our business processes or services, we are not only transforming from analog to digital, but what we need to do is to look into the environment and the ecosystem of the services so that we work together with our partners, strategic partners, on the offering the services in terms of, for example, like the value chain of supply and demand, or the value chain of certain processes for permits, for licensing, things like that. So that is what we need to do to change the way that we give services. So it includes being using some of the emerging technologies or fourth IR technologies. Yeah. So the third one is to ensure the value of government is the service investment. Know that every initiative must have certain investment. So what we do is to optimize this investment, we need to know what is the impact that we get when we get from the investment that we do. For example, if we have an investment in terms of infrastructure, then the way that we design the service investment must be impacted towards who are the target group that will be using, so that the adoption will be high. And in terms of how we identify the behavior of our target group, for example, like age group, we know that the current baby boomers will be phased out. So we have to focus on which age group that we are going to serve within the next 5 or 10 years. So that's how we design it upfront, yeah. And the last one, the fourth one is to realize the cost optimization. Of course, this is actually looking into how we implement projects or how we optimize our resources in terms of consolidated services or in terms of controlling some of the technology that we are using, so that interoperability is the utmost in our initiatives. And at the same time, we are considering the requirement and the needs of accountability of each agency in terms of the data, in terms of the security, in terms of the transparency of each processes and services. So to meet these goals, three focus areas that we are looking. I think everyone knows about this, but which areas that we are focusing on each of the focus area. So for example, in terms of people, we are looking into the digital talent. When we are locking some talent to certain solutions, then what the government needs to do is actually build this talent. For example, if we are looking into, for example, like today we need a manager of APIs, right? So API need to be managed, whether we have a talent internally or externally or outside or in the industry to actually being the manager of API, for example. So maybe as of now, we need to know who are the chief of data officer for health, for example. So this kind of talent need to be groomed and built within the organization or in the public sector so that we can sustain. The second one is on the process. So in terms of process now, we are still in an automation, but don't look in automation as an all way we are doing things of automation. We should look into the hyper automation whereby by using the automation with the data, with the intelligent device, so that the automation process is actually more intelligent than the automation, the old days of automations. So with these services, what we can do is actually looking into the, still we call it business process re-engineering, or maybe some innovation in terms of how we promote the data sharing, and also in terms of looking back into our legislations and procedures to change so that the intelligence between services and automation can happen. The third one is on technology. So in terms of technology, we can adopt some emerging technologies, for example, like nowadays we are looking into IoT is a must. Blockchain, we're not very sure yet. But in terms of biometrics, in terms of digital ID, we already embark and start using it at this moment. So what do we need to do for the next 5 years? We have to take on which technology that we're going to adopt. Of course, whatever we do, we have to align at the global levels. So the global goals that we are aligning, if we are looking into RMK 12 and also our strategic plan, digital strategic plan, is on SDG. So definitely in terms of SDG, every goals, the 17 goals, every goals have each niche area that we are looking into. That's why what we need to do is to reform the governance. As of now, recently government have come out with a new governance in terms of a digital economy and fourth IR. We already have a majlis fourth IR and digital economy that chaired by PM. So within this governance, there are 6 clusters that we identified to meet all the needs of every trust that we have in the WKB, in the shared prosperity. So another one that we need to align is national goals, which is shared prosperity. We call it wawasan kemakmuran bersama. So there are 3 things that shared prosperity brings to us, which is development for all, addressing wealth and income disparities. What does it mean to us? It means that we have to look into all the different target groups, and all this information or services that we give to them shouldn't be segmented into agencies based. It should be seamless so that they can have the information in one form to get the message right. So for example, we also looking into the enablers of the shared prosperity, as I mentioned just now. When we come up with the trust in RMK 12, we are looking into how we can embed all these enablers in the plan. Yeah. So one thing that we can see here that directly with digital is big data. So in terms of the big data, what we do is actually, if we familiar with EA, MyGov EA, we have 4 domains, right? Business, data, application, and technology. So the data is actually transcend from the business process, from the beginning, from the business process until towards to the technology level. Yeah? And we have to look into all this age group and target group and also the visions of WKB to make sure that whatever initiative that we do in digitalization will complement this vision. So in 12 Mission Plan, these are the 7 trusts that they identify that complement to the WKB. So 3 areas that WKB has mentioned is economic, social, and also environment. So in these 3 areas, the 7 trusts, if we look into it, we can actually map to what we have done now, 18 cluster area that we identify. So some of it is not actually specific to one area, it's actually inclusive of multiple areas that we have to look. For example, like kesejahteraan rakyat, we are talking not only about the social aspect of health, education, but we're also talking about the safety and the safety net. Yeah. So how do we transform from e-government to digital government? This is the hardest part when we have the mindset of electronics or automation of e-services. We are still talking about e-services somehow. But when we design these services, I call it these services, digital services, we have to design in the form that the change of design in terms of the mindset change, right? For example, now we are acting like a service provider. If you want our service, you come to us. That is what we told our client. But in digital government, we are playing a role as a platform or a facilitator, whereby if you have any issues or you have to interact with the government, please use this platform so that you can have seamless services using this platform. For example, what we have now is malaysia.gov.my. So opendata.gov.my. So within that platform, we can actually reach to the client or the citizen or the business community in one single services. Rather than multiple services, you have to go to multiple sites or multiple gateways. So to do this, there are lots of change implications that we need to do. For example, now we already have a mandate from our prime ministers. So then it cascades down into all the agencies' governance in terms of how we implement the digitalization from the root. So from here, what we need to actually change the way that we do things is in terms of understanding the different roles that we are playing to achieve the digital government. These are the innovation that we need to do rather than the physical innovation that we can see is more influence. Yeah? So what are the business value that government are looking at? From all the alignment of visions, we have come out with a digital ecosystem framework. So as I mentioned just now, the national goals and the global goals is SDG and shared prosperity. And this is meant for RMK12, whereby we are actually facilitating the digital economy peers. Yeah. So in this framework, when we mention that we facilitate, it actually starts from what is the requirement in the digital economy? What are the changes that we need to focus on in digital economy? So some of it, if we are looking into it, is more, as I mentioned just now, towards data and also intelligence. Of course, trust is the security and trust is built in, yeah. So we are not looking into one players as different players, but we're looking into as one players. So government have a role, industry have a role, the academia have a role, even the citizen and civil society have a role. So in all this, understanding all these roles, there should be a digital governance, as I mentioned just now, a different governance in terms of how we structure it from the PM layers to the implementers, and what are the regulations and policies that we need to build to facilitate and ensure that the implementation is going smoothly. And all those plans will be materialized through the strategic intent. So the digitalization strategy that we have now for the next 5 years, focusing on all these 5 areas. So in implementing digital government, the focus area need to be looked into one by one, so that we are focused in the implementations. Of course, we adopt the governance principles and all the enabling environments to make sure that the implementation runs smoothly. So this framework is actually the framework that we are referring to when we aligning the goals and to achieve the shared prosperity mission. So with all those requirement and the framework, we come up with the strategy focus for the digital government for the next 5 years. So in these visions, what we try to achieve is to facilitate more towards a sustainable digitalization to achieve the digital society. So from here, we can see that we have 5 thrusts. From the thrust, the first thrust, we are talking about the first thrust, we are talking about the data, about the intelligence of the data. Not only the data, but the intelligence of the data. So here we are focusing on how to structure the data governance and also the data management, so that the accountability of the data sharings and also to facilitate the platform of data sharing. So in here, what we need to change within these 5 years is agency have to prepare that their roles of handling data will be different, and their roles in terms of collecting data will be different. The second thrust is on the end-to-end services, or we call it inclusive or integrated services. So here we are looking into cluster services and also some specific horizontal and vertical services. So in terms of the target group, kumpulan SASA, we're also looking into a different or personalized services to the target group. The third one is on the governance. So we need to be agile in governing the digitalization, whether it is from the business perspective or it's from the government perspective, because there are lots of partnership will be happening between public and private, especially in terms of the digital industry that are growing for the next 5 years. And the fourth thrust is on the talent. Yeah. So this is, we are not only talking about the technical talent, but we also talking about the talent or the competency of the whole of public sector machinery. Yeah? So we need to build in terms of the digital leaders, we call it, to digital leaders in terms of every niche area. For example, digital leaders for education, digital leaders for manufacturing, digital leaders. So we need to know who are actually lead them to the digitalization phases. So from here, what we can see is actually translated into the structure of the governance when we have 6 different clusters of the governance. The talents, the cluster of that cluster for talent services, cluster for infrastructure and data, cluster for socials, for the government, and also cluster for safety. The fifth thrust is on the optimization of digital resources, or we call it shared services. For example, like what we have now, the infrastructure for the government, like cloud, communications, network, and many more. So we are talking about how all this interconnection between Trust 1 to Trust 5 to be implemented in parallel. So from this trust, we need to come up with the how part, because the trust and the strategic direction is very high level. So the how part is actually adopting EA to see whether the high level, the strategic directions, or the how part on how we implement at the strategic level and also at the capability level, by adopting EA. So when we are looking into the technology perspective of the digital government, yes, we must use technology, but to do what? So these are some of the values that we need to understand when we adopting new technology, or even not new, the current technology. Yeah? So the fast changing of technology is actually meant to use to solve problems. For example, now people do without phone, yeah. So the movement from desktop or towards mobile service or the web mobile service is very much, we can see the difference. Yeah, it's actually give you an opportunity to see whether the services that we have now can be can be used or available through mobile. So that is how we actually using the technology to solve the problem in terms of geolocation, in terms of the different services, in terms of different age group. Right. So the second issue is on the opportunity to create or modify existing business based on technology. For example, if as maybe before this we have to go to counters, we have to have a physical ID. So for the next 5 years, we might not have to have a physical license. Maybe the license is in terms of digital form, so that we can reduce in terms of the cost for production of digital means. Yeah, the product. Yeah, the manual products. So with this plan, or with this in mind, we will be thinking of how to design the data, the services, the customer experience towards that kind of changing environment. The third one, even we look into the technology perspective, is on how to deliver value. Meaning to say, if you have these services and you are actually you doing your transaction online through your laptop, then suddenly you are disconnected or you have to do something else, and then you open the same application in your mobile, you will get the same status or the stage that you are truncated. So at that time, what we need to do when we are the developer of the services is that to make sure that the way that we operate or we deliver the services to the customer is multi-experience, meaning to say with whatever devices, they get the same experience that they do. For example, like Google, if you search for certain keyword in your laptop and you open it in your mobile, you will get the same history of what you have searched before. And of course, we have to look into the technology trend. So this has been researched by the team on the digitalization strategic plan to look into what are the areas that we need to enhance for the next 5 years. So based on the study, 40%, if you look at the 2021, 40% of data and project analysis will be about customer experience. So we have to have enough talent to understand how to design the services through customer experience. And also 45% of the data now is done in manual form, will be reduced using machine learning technology. So do we have enough talent to understand, not to build, but to understand how machine learning can help in terms of enhancing our services. For the next 2020, they are focusing about mobile. All the services should be connected through mobile. So what happened to the area that cannot receive very good data? We have to look into the fiberization progress in terms of how they want to have physical connection, or maybe not they connected all the areas using the technology that we have now, and so on. So if we look into some of the areas that we mentioned here, we actually have done some of the services have met the needs of mobile applications, and also using the intelligence devices in their services. If according to Gartner, these are the trend for 2021. I think this is in UK or in US, not in Malaysia. But for Malaysia, for our context, it is a future technology that we have to be ready. So what we need to do at the early stage is more on the awareness, on the design, and understanding the needs of embedding all these new technologies in our processes and services. Some of the technology that we are using now, for example, like IoT, which is being used widely in terms of monitoring projects, or in terms of penguatkuasaan, yeah. So we have to look into how we actually embed all these needs in our projects. So when we do some architecture, when we do the to-be architecture, we have to consider all this technology in the next 5 or 10 years for Malaysia. Yeah? So what are the challenges that we actually have right now in terms of the digital transformation or digitalizations? As I mentioned just now, there are 6 focus areas. One is on the leadership. We have to groom our digital leaders so that they have the mind of digital leaders, not only the roles of digital leaders. Yeah. And of course, in terms of policy and regulation, we have to make sure that our policy and regulation is more transparent and not very controlling. In terms of funding, the public-private partnerships will be enhanced. In terms of the people, we need to make sure that the understanding of each age group to adopt the digital natives, yeah, to make sure that they are ready in terms of the changing of digital services. Of course, I mentioned about multi-experiences now on digital services. It's still new terms that and still challenges for us to make sure that our services can be can have the same experience in a different devices. Yeah? Equilibrium and the technology is actually looking into how digital we can build the services. Is looking into the online or end-to-end, or still you need a counter, or some of the services you cannot do it in digital means. You still have to go on the field and doing all the, for example, like pemeriksaan, all the kilang-kilang and jentera, things like that, and licensing for pilot, you still have to go on the ground. Yeah? But the data that you collected on the ground is actually digital data. So we have to look into the balance of these two. In terms of data governance, we are looking into data provenance. Data provenance is actually the source of data that we collected. For example, like now, when we are talking about education data, it's actually the secondary data that we get from the same source. So we have to look into how to handle the ownership, the consent, the custodians of handling data, also the classification of data. So these are the challenges that we have to, we foresee that we have to have some kind of program or change management program, so that the implementation will be much more smoother. This is okay. This is what Gartner says about everything customer or multi experience just now. If we look at the bottom, These are all the technologies that the users are actually using right now, yeah, to get the services. Not only mobile, not only wearable, but they also gestures and touch every services when you are using digital device. So not only these are part of channels that we have to look into. This is how we find the right balance based on the value propositions. Is it practical for us to make it digital? Will be accept? Does it if we change it to digital, will the society accept it? Or maybe because of the trust issue, or maybe because of the cybersecurity issues, the adoption will be less. Then we have to know when we design the services, when we architecting the needs of the solution, then we have to look into all this to make sure that we find the right balance. MIT says that culture is the greatest behavior to data success. I think this is true. If we are looking into the this year, we are looking into the legislation and also the data governance. What we find out for the public sector, data sharing, what we find out is that people's reluctance to share is not because of the legislation says so, but because of their trust in terms of sharing the data. So when we change, when we want to change the culture, we have to also highlight in terms of the importance of cybersecurity in terms of trust. Yeah. So how do we use the EA to leverage the business value? So we have to ask, before we do the designing of a solution, we have to ask, why do we need to change? Why the government needs to change? Yeah. So when we look into when we are talking to the developers of application, I get this response. To me, as long as the application meets the needs of the user, how we design it is not important. But the architect says that you must design it so that the user will be happy or delighted, because you don't have to ask. The user don't have to ask, why do I get this? Because you have think about it beforehand. So there should be a different, I think both are right, because they are looking into the perspective from their roles. So in terms of services, when we are designing digital services, we have to really look into playing a different role rather than what is important to us as the developer or as an architect. So that is what we need to understand when we want to change the at the service level. Of course, the data, people will not, the client will not really fussy about the data, because it's actually, as long as they get the information what they want and the transaction is a success, then they are happy. But we have to look into, of course, in terms of data protection, in terms of consent, because before this, if we want to have the service from the government asks for example, 5 levels of your data. You just give it to them without any question asked. We don't know what they're going to do with it. But now we have to actually look into how we get the consent from the legally from the client. Yeah. Infra, we have to make sure that we are better prepared for very robust and fast real-time data that we need in terms to give the services, intelligence services to their client. And of course, the last one is in terms of public-private partnership, as I mentioned. Not necessarily all the government services owned by government. If we want to make sure that the industry is developing and grooming, we have to make sure that some of the services can be delivered through maybe some sort of service management, or maybe in terms of win-win situation. We give you the client, you give us the services. You don't have to find you don't have to find any market because the market is in front of you. So things like that have to be looked into in terms of digitalization as a whole. When we're leveraging on EA, we have to look into how we design the service, the digital service. Maybe these are the 5 perspectives that we have in mind when we are designing digital service. From the planning, from the overall solutions, and how does it impact in terms of the policy and the legislation and procedures. Do we have the budget? And what are the impact of the services? Which is on the left hand is the process that we are actually using EA to align back from the vision, mission, and the goals towards the impact of the project. So if we are looking from the top, we are actually realizing strategy through vision and mission. As we know, we have plan, strategic plan, digital land, sector on right now. And what are the objectives and goals that we need to achieve? We are aligning with our strategy for business and also technology. As of now, we are dealing with 2 different plans. We have a long-term plan and we have a short-term plan. And we still segregate the business strategy and IT strategy. In digitalization strategy plan, we actually should have embed these 2 together. So when we understand what is the current situation, as is, and then we understand what are the direction that we need to achieve and what are the opportunity that we have, then we get a gap. In EA we call it as is and to be, right? So the gap is actually to achieve the to be. So during the understanding, we need to know what are the changes that we need to do with the processes. Maybe we do some BPR, business process engineering, and what are the risks that we are taking into account when we change the services, the medium of the services, the process of the services itself. How do we innovate it, right? So from there, then we understand that maybe the program and activities will be divided into a 5-year plan roadmap or 2-year plan roadmap. It depends on how big the gaps are. Then we go through the implementation, of course. Every initiatives will be realized through project and make sure that the outcome is actually, project outcome is actually meets the needs of the vision and mission that we have translated into strategy. So this is actually how we leverage EA in the planning and also the implementation of project. So if we are looking into the digital strategy plan, Trust 2 and Trust 1 is actually about services and data. So when we are talking about services, we have to look into the ecosystem of public sector services. We have B2B, we have G2B, we have G2C, and also we have, as I mentioned just now, services that government services that being given by the industry or the company. So we have central agency to support the services to the frontliners or direct to the departments. Currently, we have 5 groups of sectors. Prior to this, prior to March 2020, we have 4 sectors. Yeah, infrastructure is one new sector. It's not new actually. It's just they make it one different sectors by itself. Yeah, so that they can actually focus on each of the sector to develop the services and the industry. Okay, of course we need to understand the target group just now. So these are among category of customers, government customers that we need to focus on. For example, G2G, we are looking into not only government internally, but also government outside the country. Of course, when we are talking about citizen, we are also talking about non-citizen. How do we address this? Yeah, government employees is another target group. The academic society, yeah, academia, and also at the bottom layer is more towards the contribution to the economic digital economy. Yeah? We have to look into how we actually address the needs of industry, company, investors, and also visitors that come to Malaysians. These are the live events, or we call it peristiwa kehidupan, that we have in our portal, the government portal, malaysia.gov.my, which will be increasing. This what we have planned for in terms of the life cycles within the community, business community, and also the citizen. So from this live event, we map it into each perspective of target group. For example, like rakyat, we have 14 live event, or we call it peristiwa kehidupan, that rakyat need to have a touch point with the government. For example, like kelahiran and kematian number 1 and number 14, which is interrelates, whereby you need your family to address the services for you, right? So in that area, actually rakyat also includes family-based services. We are before this, when we are talking about citizen, we are talking about individual. But now we are looking into how the individual and also family-based services need to be enhanced. The rest of the live event based on the perspective of rakyat is actually looking into how you live your life, whereby you will get some portion of kebajikan, maybe of course you need pendidikan, you have to work, which is your career, pekerjaan. And if you are not working with somebody, you must be working on your own, or you have your own company, right? So that will include perniagaan as well. Your health, your assets, you have houses, you have cars, and you need to go anywhere, you must have a document perjalanan. And all of this need how you manage your money, and how do you deal with when you have urgency or emergencies, and what is your as a citizen or as an individual, what is your right, and you have to of course contribute to the community and also environment. So these are the 14 areas that we are looking into when we are actually designing the digital services. In the EA, what we do is actually we come up with a reference architecture of services that meet all these 14 categories. This is from the perspective of an organization. As a government organization, first of all, you must be structured as an organization, established, within the Akta Tubuh, or maybe because of the ministerial function that MFO that we have now, which agency is doing what policy. So then for you to operate, you must have resources. For one of it is people, you must have money, you must have assets that you need to manage. And to implement your activities and program, you must have plan, strategic plan, then you develop your project through development of project, short-term, long-term, how you manage the project, and also monitor projects and make sure that the outcome of the project meet the needs of the objective of the projects, and the how you promote the services or the implementation of your policy to the target group. And of course, all this implementation and program and project will be audited to make sure that the accountability and transparency is there. Yeah? So all these G2G services is actually almost the same among all the ministries. So what are we going to do about it is actually looking into how we can ensure that all these services is have their own platform to interact between each others. For example, like Sumber Manusia, we already have Hermes, but we know that several agencies which have their own professions, they have their own way of handling the people's Sumber Manusia as well. So how do we integrate all this data so that by end of the day, we get all the holistic view of how we manage our resources. This is from the perspective of perniagaan. Just now, if we go from the rakyat, we have one live event about perniagaan. So this is focusing on the business community. So from the beginning, when you want to plan your business, until you have to manage your the termination of your business. So all this, all the stages you need to, you have to interact with the government. So the same with just now, what we are doing with the rakyat, we have every phases of business, managing business to be, for example, like a product, and for investors, we already have a platform for import-exports, for example, of products. So how do we facilitate this business to get their certifications, to get their permit, get their license, to make sure that their tax is properly collected. So all those platforms need to be looked into as one, not as agency-based functions. This is from the perspective of penjawat awam as a government officer. From the day that we become prior to that, when we are actually dealing with SPA or SPP, to be the government officer until the day that we retire. So all these processes, most of the processes are with SPA, JPA, and also MOF. So I believe this one is much better design rather than the other three target group. These are the strategy that the government-wide architecture is looking into. We're looking into the numbers of 1, 2, and 3. Is actually associated with the first one is we have to define what are the services. As of now, here I put 4 sectors because prior to this, prior to March, we are actually looking into 4 sectors, but now it becomes 5 sectors. But the cluster of services is still the same. We have 18 cluster services, and we have identified in our reference model 210 services. From 210 services in the business reference models, we map it into the end-to-end services or online services, also counter services that we are collecting through our monitoring activities. As of now, we have about 10,469 services, which is online, but there are services which is still not online. So from here, then we identify the processes that involve in dealing with end-to-end services. For example, if you have one services that you have to mohon, and then you have to sema, and then you have to bayar, and then it will be delivered to you. So those processes is actually the process that involve in giving the end-to-end services. All the services that we handle must be associated with the same data category or cluster. In this case, we need to understand the governance of the data in terms of how the data is structured, what are the metadata we are using, and who are the owner of all this data. How do we make sure that the data is secure in terms of information sharing as well. Yeah. So all this architecture, call it reference, yeah? All this reference will be used during the designing of the digital processes. These are 20 common services that we identify to make sure that possible opportunity for us to come up with one simple form to make sure the customer experience is much better. For example, we as a citizen need to register in a lots of government transaction or activities. So why don't we have this? Single registrations whereby our data can be used, for example, like address, right? If we already registered the address that we are now, at any time we can change the address if we are moving to example. Then all the agencies that need the current address of where we are now or where we live will get the data immediately, the changes of the data immediately. So that's how we should look into how the common services will reduce the numbers of customer experience to enlighten the customer experience to be much more easy to use. These are actually the common architecture for information sharing. We have in EA, we are looking into the overall information architecture for the public sector wide. We have DDSA, government data, as a metadata management in terms of how you want to develop and format your data. And also we have Malaysian government portal, PSDSP, to look into the information structure of the information and transaction services that we do in PSDSP. So for all these three elements will be the main area that we have to manage to make sure that the information sharing mechanism is secure. So from the personalization perspective, if I'm a rakyat, then these are the data or the digital data that really prime to my services to me. As a connected government, we have to look into the perspective of client. How do we deal from the perspective of rakyat just now, yeah? So with this priority of common data, prime data, then this data can be used by industry to make sure that the identity is correct and everything. So the data will be interconnected into different types of application. There is a common application that we can use because of the nature of the application is the same, or the process is the same, or the services is the same. And also generate application whereby every agency can use the same data. Or maybe group application based on sector, based on cluster, based on subclusters, and also specific application that only that agency have the services. Only one agency have the services. So we map those application to the architecture of the technology in terms of how we build the data we have for each of the data utama, and also which one is the services that we can actually have it in centralized means. Yeah. These are the data that we collect this year to understand in terms of the data governance, the ownership of the data, and also the custodian of the data and the security of the data. Some of the data within the same subcluster is the same, and some of the data is actually distinct with this subcluster. If you are looking into the application and technology, these are actually how in the framework of development system, we are using the enterprise architecture as the governing part on how to make sure that the designing and the engineering of the application is being done. This is the strategy to the reference that we are using as of now, the MyGovEE reference model, to categorize and understand how we manage the application and also the technology. I won't go into details on this. These are the functions of application standard that we have come up with. And these are the guidance for every agencies and ministries to make sure that when they develop an application, they should look into the functionalities of this application. Maybe different applications serve different functionalities, but for an organization that serve or facilitate the services to their client, they should have all this functionality in place. We come up also with the application architecture that actually maps the different group of application or type of application towards the government portal. Yeah? So we know how to actually look into the different solution for each different types of application, different group of application. These are an examples in Korea, whereby from those different application group, they have a framework to ensure that the common modules that they understand can be reused. So the common modules, when they use the common modules, it actually can advance in terms of fast to market of their applications or solutions. Of course, the framework will be associated with what are the software that they are using, but actually the common applications that using the same software can have standardization in terms of how they develop the application. Whether you are using the same APIs or you are actually having it in as a client server or web services or cloud-based applications. So that every agencies and ministries will be focusing on their business logic rather than focusing on developing a new framework, common components that they can reuse. So if we have this in mind, then the way that we develop or purchase or procure application development will be different. We can also have these are the experience of Korea in terms of how they implement the e-government framework and reduce the time frame of development 20%, 70 to 80%. Yeah? And then we understand for digital government landscape initiative with the target group in mind, then what are the solution and platform that we have. So if we look into the multiple, meaning to say there are multiple platforms that being developed from a different ministries or department. So we have to look into whether we need to have one platform or we can work within the multiple platform. So almost this is actually looking into from the Korean perspective. So with all those in mind, what we need to do is actually looking back for the architecture that we have now and designing so that the future architecture will be more structured and seamless. For example, we need to understand how digital ID is actually being used as an SSO or single sign-on in the single gateway or maybe multiple gateway. We have to decide on that. Of course, we have multiple registry that we have to manage for the government and also for the industry. When we are looking into a different design of architecture, we also have to look into changing the current design and architecture for the technology. For example, like digital service channels, end-to-end services, how do we design it? We want to do as one or maybe multiple services can also achieve the target. Must be citizen-centric or customer-centric. Must relies on cashless and also make sure that the sustainability and resilience of the services. These are examples of holistic solution design that use GIS led by MACD or now is PDN, yeah, and Japan to have one platform. They actually looking this solution in this COVID-19 implementation of data tracking, yeah, in terms of jejak wabak lah, by MKN. I think they still in the implementation phase. So if we have this in mind, we have to understand the importance of data sharing and also a different way of we design services as one service from the government. With that, I thank you.